genius, power, and a dark legacy. Henry Ford is widely remembered as one of the most influential businessmen in modern history. He revolutionized transportation, transformed manufacturing, and helped make automobiles affordable for ordinary people. Through the success of Ford Motor Company, he became one of the most famous and powerful figures of the 20th century. Yet behind his achievements lies a far more controversial story. While Ford's innovations changed the world, some of his beliefs and actions left a troubling legacy that continues to be debated by historians today. This is not simply the story of a successful entrepreneur. It is the story of a man whose brilliance helped shape modern industry, but whose prejudices and misuse of influence also contributed to the spread of harmful ideas. A farm boy fascinated by machines. Henry Ford was born on July 30th, 1863, in Greenfield Township, Michigan, USA. He grew up on a farm, but unlike many children of his time, he had little interest in agriculture. Instead, he was fascinated by machinery. As a young boy, Ford enjoyed taking apart watches and repairing mechanical devices. Neighbors often brought broken items to him because of his reputation for fixing things. His curiosity about machines soon became a lifelong passion. At age 16, Ford left the family farm and moved to Detroit to work as a machinist apprentice. While many people saw farming as the future, Ford believed machines would transform society. This belief would eventually change the world. The dream of building cars. During the 1890s, Ford worked as an engineer for the Edison Illuminating Company. Although he had a stable job, his true ambition was to build self-propelled vehicles powered by gasoline. In 1896, he completed his first experimental automobile, known as the quadricycle. The vehicle was simple and crude, but it proved that his ideas could work. Several business ventures failed before Ford finally established Ford Motor Company in 1903. At the time, automobiles were considered luxury items for the wealthy. Ford had a different vision. He wanted to create a car that ordinary workers could afford. That vision became reality in 1908 with the introduction of the Model T, the man who changed the modern world. The Model T was more than a car. It was a social revolution. Ford improved and popularized the moving assembly line, dramatically reducing production costs and manufacturing time. Cars that once took many hours to build could now be assembled much more efficiently. As prices fell, millions of Americans gained access to personal transportation for the first time. Ford's innovations transformed not only the automobile industry, but also manufacturing itself. Factories around the world adopted his production methods. In 1914, Ford shocked the business world by introducing a $5 workday, nearly doubling the average industrial wage. Workers flocked to Ford factories, and many viewed him as a champion of the working class. But beneath this image lay a more controlling side. Controlling workers beyond the factory. Although Ford paid high wages, he often believed he had the right to influence how workers lived outside the workplace. To enforce his ideas about morality and behavior, Ford created a department known as the Sociological Department. Investigators visited employees' homes and examined their lifestyles. Workers could be questioned about their spending habits, alcohol consumption, family relationships, personal conduct. Employees who failed to meet Ford's standards sometimes risked losing benefits. Supporters argued that Ford was trying to improve workers' lives. Critics saw it as an invasion of privacy and an attempt to control people's personal choices. Growing fame and growing ego. As Ford became one of the world's richest and most celebrated industrialists, his confidence expanded beyond business. He increasingly viewed himself as an authority on politics, economics, society, and world affairs. This confidence sometimes led him into dangerous territory. During and after the First World War, Ford became attracted to various conspiracy theories. He began believing that hidden forces were manipulating world events. Those beliefs would eventually become one of the darkest aspects of his legacy. The Dearborn Independent, a platform for controversy. In 1918, Ford purchased a newspaper called the Dearborn Independent. Initially, the paper covered ordinary news. Over time, however, it became a platform for Ford's personal views and political beliefs. The newspaper began publishing articles that accused Jewish people of secretly controlling finance, media, politics, and culture. These claims lacked credible evidence and reflected antisemitic stereotypes that were already circulating in some parts of society. Because Ford was one of the most famous men in America, the newspaper gained significant attention and influence. The International Jew. The most controversial material published by Ford's newspaper was later collected into a series of books titled The International Jew. The books claimed that Jewish communities were secretly controlling major world institutions and influencing global events. Historians have widely rejected these claims as false and rooted in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Nevertheless, the books sold in large numbers and were translated into several languages. Ford's fame gave these ideas legitimacy in the eyes of many readers who might otherwise have ignored them. As a result, the books became some of the most influential anti-Semitic publications of the early 20th century, promoting a dangerous forgery. Another controversial aspect of Ford's activities involved a document called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. The document claimed to reveal a secret Jewish plan for world domination. Investigations had already shown that the text was a fabrication, a deliberate forgery created to spread hatred and fear. Despite this, Ford's newspaper treated the document as credible and helped circulate its claims. The widespread promotion of this forgery contributed to the growth of anti-Semitic movements in several countries. Hitler's admiration for Ford. One of the most disturbing elements of Ford's legacy is his connection to the rise of anti-Semitic ideology in Europe. Adolf Hitler openly admired Henry Ford and mentioned him favorably. Ford's writings were translated into German and distributed within nationalist and anti-Semitic circles. It would be inaccurate to claim that Ford caused Nazism. The movement had many complex origins. However, historians generally agree that his publications helped legitimize and spread anti-Semitic ideas internationally during a critical period. This remains one of the most controversial parts of his historical reputation. Hostility toward labor unions. Although Ford paid workers relatively well, he strongly opposed labor unions. He believed unions threatened his authority and interfered with efficient business operations. Ford Motor Company developed an aggressive anti-union culture. Organizers attempting to recruit workers often faced intimidation and surveillance. The company's security chief, Harry Bennett, became known for using strong-arm tactics against labor activists. This contradiction puzzled many observers. Ford supported high wages. Ford opposed independent worker organization. His approach reflected a desire to maintain control rather than share power with employees. Family struggles and personal tragedy. Ford's relationship with his only son, Edsel Ford, was often strained. Edsel was intelligent, creative, and more open to modern business ideas. Many observers believed he would have led Ford Motor Company in a more progressive direction. However, Henry Ford frequently overruled his son and maintained strict control over major decisions. The pressure placed on Edsel reportedly contributed to significant stress throughout his life. In 1943, Edsel Ford died at the age of 49. Many historians view the difficult father-son relationship as one of the personal tragedies of Henry Ford's life. Public backlash and apology. By the late 1920s, criticism of Ford's anti-Semitic publications had intensified. Legal challenges and public pressure mounted against both Ford and his newspaper. Eventually, the Dearborn Independent was shut down, and Ford issued a public apology for the material that had been published. The sincerity of this apology remains debated. Some historians believe Ford genuinely regretted his actions. Others argue that the apology was largely motivated by business concerns and legal pressure. Because Ford rarely discussed the issue publicly afterward, historians continue to disagree about the extent of his personal change. Final years and death. As he aged, Ford's influence within his company gradually declined. His health worsened during the 1940s, and many executives worried about the future leadership of Ford Motor Company. Henry Ford died on April 7, 1947, at the age of 83. By the time of his death, he had become one of the most famous industrialists in history. Yet his reputation was already deeply divided. A legacy of innovation and controversy. Henry Ford left behind two very different legacies. His positive contributions revolutionized automobile manufacturing, popularized the moving assembly line, made cars affordable for ordinary people, increased industrial productivity worldwide, introduced higher wages for factory workers, helped shape modern consumer society. His darker legacy spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, promoted harmful stereotypes. He supported publications that fueled prejudice, opposed labor unions and worker organizing, exercised excessive control over employees' personal lives. contributed to the international circulation of extremist ideas. Conclusion. Henry Ford remains one of history's most complex figures. His innovations transformed transportation, manufacturing, and modern industry. Millions of people benefited from the technologies and production methods he helped pioneer. At the same time, his promotion of anti-Semitic ideas and conspiracy theories demonstrates how influence can be misused. His story serves as a reminder that extraordinary talent in one area does not guarantee wisdom in all others. Today, Henry Ford is remembered both as a visionary industrial pioneer and as a deeply controversial figure whose darker beliefs continue to cast a shadow over his remarkable achievements. His life stands as a powerful example of how a person can leave behind a legacy that is both revolutionary and deeply troubling at the same time.